was that I had a presentation for a class and our team came in second place. And I was really happy about that. And I'm excited for the hike tomorrow. So all good stuff.
Awesome. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
That's an achievement for sure. We just started recording. I should have mentioned that earlier. So we're just going to run through some goods of the week. Rennie, how are you doing? What's your good of the week?
This week went really well. I would say my good has just been the fact that I wasn't as busy this week, so I got to relax more and get stuff done early. So I don't have any homework this weekend because I did it all early. So just happy I get to relax this weekend.
Nice. I just watched this TED Talk on procrastination, and I'm glad that you don't have to worry about the panic monster. In short, for anyone who's ever seen it. Let's see. Hattie, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I was sick this week, but I'm on the up and up, so I'm excited about that.
That is good to hear. I'm glad you're on the up and up. Jacob, how are you doing? What's your good of the week?
My good of the week was hanging out with you, good sir. I enjoyed the time we spent together, and I'm good today.
Yeah, it was a good time. Jacob and I went out to the protest yesterday in March, organized by the 320 Coalition. There are a few other events taking place today, as well as tomorrow. It's a different event, but still getting at the racial inequalities seen throughout the country. That will be a vigil tomorrow at Old Main Steps, remembering those lives lost at this Tuesday's murder. But yesterday's was very moving. Glad we could share that time together. Tony, how are you? What's your good of the week?
I'm doing really well, actually. I am currently down the shore, so I'm with my family celebrating one of my brother's birthdays, and so yeah, we're all actually my dad's just telling a bunch of stories in the other room, so I had to go into a different room because they're pretty loud, but they were just all sharing stories from when we were kids and stuff. So I'm really having a great day.
Cool. I'm glad to hear that. Grace, how are you today?
I'm good. Probably my good of the week is I made it to the next round of Teach for America. So I get an interview now, so I'm excited.
How cool. Wow, best of luck with that. Keep us updated.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Let's see. Lewis, how's it going?
It's going pretty well. Busy week, a lot of homework, but got through all that. Now just, spend the weekend with my girlfriend here. So, yeah.
Nice. I'm glad to hear that. Please tell her we all said hi. Lexi, how's it going?
Hello, I'm doing good, and my good for the week is I gave my first in-person tour on Monday, and I found out that day it was the first of the week, of the year ever, so that was cool.
Wow, that is really cool. And to have it led by the student body vice president, how awesome. I just biked past the tour that was going on at Old Main, and I thought I saw somebody familiar, but I wasn't quite sure, so I didn't say anything. I now realize I probably should have yelled "We are," screamed it at them, but I didn't. So unfortunately, I'm just not, I guess I'm not Lion Ambassador's material. I will do that next time. Michael, how's it going?
Hey, Zach. Hey, everyone. It's going well. My high of the week was kind of ties into last weekend. I went to a thrift store and bought some books, and I love buying old books. So I bought one book on effective writing and another one on the art of speaking. So I'm excited to dig into those, and they're pretty cheap too. So that was great.
Is The Art of Speaking by Dale Carnegie by chance?
No, it is I can send you a picture of it.
That would be
it's a different author though.
Okay. It's exciting stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
And I saw your name was announced for the State of State speakers too.
Yes, sir.
How exciting.
Thank you.
Kitty has her good of the week too. She's recovering after her appointment. She should no longer be spraying on wicker baskets. And Najee is joining us too. Najee, for those, I'm pretty sure everyone knows, but in case you don't, and you've been living under a rock, serves as the chair of the Committee on Justice and Equity. And Najee, it's a pleasure to have you here today. Najee, how are you, and what's your good of the week?
Thanks, it's great to be here. Happy Saturday to everyone. My good of the week was I had a pumpkin spice latte from Irving's. So to know that there's still pumpkin in the world outside of fall is really a pleasure to know.
Sure is. That's awesome. I'm glad that you're here and glad that you get to enjoy that. Awesome.
Thank you.
You bet. So let's dig into today's meeting. I want to begin with why. For those who haven't seen Simon Sinek's Start With Why speech, you should check it out because it's important that we kind of center ourselves around why we're here, why we're doing this. It's a little different from our regular cabinet meetings in that this is really designed to be a collective communication tool between the executive and the legislative branches. It was created back, I think, in August when we had created the Executive Office of the President with the intention of really backing away from some of the faulty traditions of the UPUA. In the past, the President and Vice President would historically run on various initiatives that would then be written up on the whiteboard in our office. That would really be the organization's focus. It would be the true north that representatives would work towards and committees were geared towards, but it disabled a lot of things. One, it disabled representatives from bringing up their own ideas, things that, for example, Lexi and I didn't run on this year, but which came about this, but which did come about this year, might not have happened because they would have been focused on other things, as well as the departments that really underutilized the departments in really every way. And so this year we really tried to figure out a way around that. And by recognizing that the departments are relatively nonpartisan in that they don't, take sides when representatives have different ideas. They're not supposed to, but rather they work with all representatives. Outreach will always make a graphic for a representative's project, regardless of whether or not they agree with it, for example. But this still enables Lexi and I and future administrations the opportunity to share exactly what was on their platform. In some cases, delegate it to the departments. Not everything has to be legislation. It's representatives are not the end all be all of the UPUA. And in many ways, departments can achieve exactly what they set out to do. But it allows representatives to kind of get a sense as to what projects are being worked on, which need a little bit more help. Legislation might be necessary for some, so that would be the kind of communication tool at the time. In an ideal world, we would have had this structure on day one, and we would have been able to really hit the ground running, but we didn't have a cabinet. We didn't have the kind of structures that we do now that enable this collaboration. So I figure it's better late than never. And considering Lexi and I's terms are almost up, we want to solidify some last minute things. So with that, let's delve into it. I'm going to pull up here the platform that Lexi and I ran on for purposes of our conversation. I'll refer to it broadly as partisan in that they are Lexi and I's ideas. Nora Van Horn served as our director of policy development, or she was our policy.
Oh, busy week. Got through all the work. Now I'm just.
All right, I'm gonna have to mute Lewis there. I think he was singing a little bit, but I believe it was the director of policy development. So, yeah, let's dig into things. And Jacob's joining us here as our Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy. He's been really keeping a bird's eye view on everything going on here. I think he and I might be the only ones with the policy printed out, with the platform all printed out, and we've just been marking it up all year round. So let's dig into things. I've talked with some of you about how they relate to your various departments. If they don't relate to a department, they might relate to a committee. And this would be the opportunity to kind of address those things and bring it up with chairs. At this point, it'll be something that we include in our end of year reports and in representatives transition documents to kind of continue, but let's go. Let's just go line by line. Jacob, does that sound okay? We'll kind of dig into each one and figure out where we are, how we're doing, and how we can categorize them according to kind of this idea. What
Sounds
can be done now? Okay, does that sound good with everyone?
Sounds like a plan.
Okay. So for the remote learning period, we split up our platform into different plans to address different things. The remote learning period had just begun, and there were things that we needed to focus on front and center. This initiative dealt primarily with working on distribution. This, I think, was pretty much just in conversation. It was sort of like a commitment to ensure that these things were, the distribution was fair, equitable, and cognizant of students' needs. And that's something Alexi and I have been doing pretty much all year.
Zach.
Yep.
If an initiative is done, I think we should just say that it's done and move on. Because if we go in depth on every initiative, we'll be here for 5 hours.
Yeah, I agree.
So I would say for push for reimbursements for housing costs, meal points, and unused amenities, they did, so done.
Wonderful. So, go ahead.
Implement and advertise CAP services via Zoom, we did that.
Yep, and I talked with Hattie about this yesterday too, about doing something with health and wellness. Hattie, do you want to touch on that?
Yeah, so we talked about just posting on the health and wellness social media, just so students know the CAP services that are available to them, and that they know that they can go to CAPS on Zoom if they're not comfortable going in person. So we're currently working within the department to get that post ready to go.
Wonderful. And I think that about would cover it. We want to get resources out there. Encouraging the further moratoriums on evictions. Jacob, what do you think?
They, both the State College Borough and everyone passed legislation at the time. And I think right now there's still a federal eviction on COVID related, if you can't pay your rent due to COVID. So I would say, especially because we passed pretty much immediately.
That one was finished because I think I read a piece of legislation on that one as well. So.
Yep. Wonderful. I think that was one of the last things we did in the 14th Assembly too, was call for it, and then it happened. So I think then they extended it. But if there's a federal one in place, then that's even better for now. Navigate issues with landlords. This is something that I think in the future the Department of Rights and Equity could help take up, really helping students understand their rights when dealing with landlords. Off-tenant student rights is something that I know Rennie and I've talked about, Lewis and I've talked about. So I think, you know, there's definitely some future here, but what do we have done so far? Jacob, didn't we do something? We had the Attorney General actually come, right? He came to State College?
That was pre-COVID.
Pre-COVID, okay. You think there's a way we could get back in touch with him about something like this or some other? I know Don Hahn is interested in tenant rights, but I don't know why, because it's not really his job.
Let me earmark it or like put it aside, and I'll see if I'll talk to Scott Conklin and see if he can help us get in touch with Josh Shapiro.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. Paid leave for students.
We passed legislation, and I believe they did it, right? They gave students some back pay.
They did some, there was some hazard pay implemented for students working at the gyms. There might have been even more, and I believe RA's got a pay raise too. I guess it might be a little different though. because paid leave is different than just that, but it does work towards financial strains. Lexi, what do you think?
Sorry, can you repeat? There's a bit going
Yeah.
on in my room right now.
What more do you think we can do on this one?
I think not necessarily paid leave. I know before we had hazard pay, and I know that Campus Rec was able to do that.
Mhm.
We could bring it up to Damon, but I remember when we did, he was like, yeah, no. And like it did happen during COVID. I just don't know if this would happen in like a normal setting, unfortunately. Is it something we could definitely push for? Yeah.
Legislation is passed. This is going to be, I think, one of those things that we kind of have to continue advocating for in general, just students' financial needs during COVID. Sorry. ABTS. Jacob, I think you know a thing or two about ABTS.
I would say this one, yeah, you did it.
The ABTS, for those who don't know, connects the student governments from all the Big Ten schools. We just put out a statement yesterday regarding Tuesday's attack in Atlanta. If you don't know anything about it, it'd be pretty cool to look up. Really great connection with our national student governments. Penn State's resources.
I think you do that pretty much weekly on the Instagram, the Twitter, stuff like that.
Yeah, and we're trying more too through different ways. You know, our press conferences, the newsletters.
Yeah.
We even, I mean, there's a whole tab on the website now for resources for students. So, anyone have any ideas how to expand to? I don't want to look at these things as things that, you know, are crossed off and then we never touch again as a student government, because this can't really stop. But I do want to make sure that we at least.
I would say these two are just rolling missions. Those are the two like core rolling missions of the student government.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily consider it as crossed off, rather perhaps like as something that should continue under operating procedure.
Yeah.
We frame it like that so that, you know, I mean, the work being done is fantastic and it's definitely getting the message out about resources specifically. You know, it's available in multiple places.
Yep.
Keep making it available, and I think you've hit upon this very well.
Yeah, like if we want to look at this as an analysis of what the McKay Pathical administration completed and what we can complete in the next 2 weeks, I would say the two that we're looking at on the screen right now are always ongoing missions of the student government, but that you guys did them well, and that they'll continue being done well in the future.
Okay.
I'd agree with that. And I think that the top one specifically is like Jacob said, like something that we never can do well enough, right? Until every student is utilizing every resource that's available to them every time, our mission has not been succeeded, right? It's not successful. I mean, we might have successes, but this is something that I think we can always do better. So things like maybe like people always talk about consolidating, you know, scholarship websites, you know, consolidating places where, you know, resources are available. Like, for example, I could see something like, just putting my own hat on, something like Sora alongside something like, you know, tenant rights, and something alongside, right? We have like recently introduced that piece of legislation on like name changes for transgender students. So like a place where maybe we have all of these different offerings in one place would perhaps help this, but that's obviously a longer term project. So
Yeah, really great points, everyone. Nikhil, something you said about, you know, institutionalizing this, making sure that we continue doing them. I'm thinking back even to the newsletter executive order that we put out. It very clearly outlines that resources from Penn State will be included in every one. And I think that, I mean, that's a pretty solid way to ensure that at least the student government in one form or fashion will always put out resources. They could do everything else wrong and they should still be in that newsletter. Okay. Advocate for in-person commencement, some pretty big news. I would say that this was a success. I mean, that's pretty much that. Okay, the next plan was regarding sexual assault and misconduct. Lord knows it is a just constant problem at Penn State. This is funny. It's not funny. We put the plan out the same day that the Department of Education put out this big story about Title IX failing students at Penn State, and they really have, and that I can tell you was not planned, but it was a really big wake-up call to really the problem that it is on campus. As always, trigger warning, the following plan does deal with sensitive topics, so please do keep that in mind. And feel free to leave if you need to. Lexi, we have been tackling this from day one. They'll be putting out the survey results probably by the end of the year. They have University Parks done. Done is done. This is a president, vice president initiative. Benchmarking and student involvement in university planning. We're talking about creating an OSEMPR student advisory board. Oh, that's perfect, Lexi. I'm glad to hear that they're working on releasing it right now. We've been talking about creating a student advisory board, right, for the Office of Sexual Misconduct Prevention and Response. So that is so far coming along really well. They have a group of people that they have in mind. The UPUA is included in that. So I can see, for example, maybe split it up. So a director of sexual misconduct and prevention, and then somebody like the chair of justice and equity or something like that, serving on some kind of an advisory board like that. CAPS Purple Team, Hattie and I talked about this yesterday. The Purple Team isn't an official term. When I was talking with Ben Locke about it, basically it's just like a, I don't know, internal name that they give the people who work or who respond to sexual assault cases. So it's not like you can click on Purple Team on their website and it'll take you there. So in reality, this would be focused more on, just getting survivors the resources that they need and putting out resources like that. Could be that people don't know CAPS can deal with response things like that. Given that information, Jacob, others, how do you feel we should proceed?
So I think this kind of goes into the next initiative for streamlining sexual assault and violence reporting resources. One of the things that I had written down, and I don't know if this is done, is like creating a page on the UPUA website that does streamline those resources. And I think we could put information about the Purple Team on that page if we decide to go that route.
I think that's totally doable. And we could do that today. Yeah. Anyone else have ideas on that or think it's okay?
And are we still having an SVAP week?
I believe there's still an SVAP week, yep.
This is something that can either be implemented in this year's SVAP or next year's SVAP, but I think it's definitely still flexible and that we should, keep on the front of our minds.
Yeah, I think, and it's certainly one of those things I think we should look at, not just during 1 week, but really throughout the year. Putting it on the website helps ensure that. And then continued collaboration with the Gender Equity Center. In Becca, moving forward, I think would continue to help that. I think Erin's been phenomenal working on all that. And Kelly, and Rennie, I can't thank you enough for really helping her achieve that kind of potential. Create a sexual violence assault prevention role within the UPUA. We did that, and Erin has been great. Establish sexual misconduct reporting and resource education. So the last time I checked, Erin was working on some kind of a survey for members of the UPUA, kind of identifying what resources we do know about and what resources we don't. Is anybody familiar with that project? Kelly, Rennie, maybe? And I say Rennie because I think, if I'm not mistaken, her role was technically moved into the Department of Rights and Equity, because it's rights, it's not so much a sustainability thing.
Yeah, I'm not really fully aware of anything yet with that, since I'm still trying to figure out the department, just the structure and all that.
Uh-huh.
But I still need to meet with the current members that got moved into the department and see what their goals are, so I can do that.
Okay. Maybe just a text even to Aaron and just seeing kind of what the sitch is. I forget what the Kim Possible phrase was. I was going to say something like, what's the sitch? Is that it?
Yeah.
Asking her, thank you, Nicole. Asking her what the sitch is would be helpful. And I'm reading these chats now. Grace, thank you for talking about the purple team in Greeks Cares. And then Kelly, thank you for the credit to Kelly, or to Aaron. Advocate to local, state, and federal governments for legislation. Lewis, I think you did this day one as a representative. Weren't you the first resolution for the Abby Honnold Act? I think he was. Pretty sure he was.
Sorry, what was that again, Zach?
Weren't you the first resolution? Didn't you put through something about the Abby Honnold Act? It's on our legislative docket, but
I may have. I really don't remember. That was early in the year if it was.
yeah.
But yeah, so I do remember that actually. That was, yeah, early in the 15th.
Okay. Jacob, do you think there's something we could do with ABTS, just essentially asking if anyone else wants to put something like that forward again to the group, or some other kind of legislation?
I'm trying to think if we voted on anything related to it in our last legislative assembly.
I don't think we did. I know past didn't.
What?
I know past didn't. I don't think past met.
I know ABTS did. For pass, I can't say that I'm totally familiar with what's on the Pennsylvania state docket right now.
Yep.
But we can take a look and see what we can do.
Who's the past liaison? Do we have a past liaison?
When I was in the assembly, it was Josh Reynolds, I think.
Okay.
Might be Dan. Is it Dan Risser?
Could be. I know Dan was last year. I don't know if he still is. I think that might have changed when he became chair. I'm not sure. Okay. Maybe it's even as simple as getting in touch with the liaisons and asking if we can put something through on behalf of all PA students and ABTS students. It's certainly something that needs to be addressed. I don't know how many of you got the timely reports even this past week, but there have been many. Plan to address mental health issues and stigma. Hattie, I believe we also touched on this. Mental health education for all students, Cognito. This is a really, really exciting initiative that we just weren't able to touch this year. It is like an online role-playing simulation game. Really, it's an educational resource, so I wouldn't even call it a game. But it is something that, you know, could be even recommended that students do in their freshman seminars. Beyond that, I mean, we do talk about this kind of coinciding with the Green Bandana Project. What do you think?
I don't know if you're asking me, but I think that would pair really nicely with the Green Bandana Project, and educating students on like the resources here and just mental health in general is something that's really important. And I think if we pair that with the Green Bandana and having them understand that there are people, even and students on campus that are here to support them, I think those two things would go along really nicely.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I agree. I just wanted to voice my support for this as well. It's really cool.
Okay. I think then this will be a category B thing. We can start taking some action. We can do some research. Even putting together a one-sheeter to pass on to the next assembly would be pretty helpful. Hattie, do you think that's something I can ask you in the department to do?
Yeah, 100%.
Awesome. Just something describing what it is, how it can help students, and how we can integrate it into things like the orientation and first year seminars would be helpful. Mental health peer mentor system. If I'm not mistaken, CAPS was almost not opposed to it, but kind of like wary of it. So I had talked with Hattie about just emailing Ben again, just to kind of see where things are. Jacob, I mean, this is pretty similar to the Green Bandana Project, isn't it? A little different.
We can always like just smush things together.
It is a little different, and I don't want to just smush them together, but they are, I mean, they certainly overlap a little bit.
This is kind of what the Office of Student Care and Advocacy is doing now, on
Really?
like less of a mental health related, like peer sort of thing. I mean, obviously it's administrative in nature, and it's less
Yeah.
about mental health, but it's more just about like supporting students through tough times, whether they're like conduct or like whatever. So like they also kind of focus and like allow them, they kind of point students in the right direction, I think is what they do. So that might be maybe, you know, if we wanted to finish something up quickly, we could perhaps just like pair with them or do something that increases exposure for them, because they are a new office, is their first year. So
Okay, that is really helpful information. Hattie, again, do you think, could you email Student Care and Advocacy and ask if there are resources that they have, even graphics, which we can help share? It's kind of hard to think about like an in-person thing right now, but at the very least, getting that information out there on our socials would work.
Yeah, that's super easy. You said it was the student advocacy office?
I believe so. And I know that there are some representatives who've worked with them in the past for things like the Lion Cash vouchers. In fact, Najee, would you happen to know any contact there?
Specifically for the Lion Cash vouchers?
Sorry, for, I guess for anything related to mental health or anything as a whole.
If I'm understanding correctly, I believe Ben Locke or the director of the Office of Student Care and Advocacy.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you. Hattie, in that case, could you send a message to the director and see what's up?
Yeah, Najee, would you mind sending me that email?
Yes, I can.
You have
Is it
it?
okay if I text that to you right now?
Yeah, 100%. Thank you.
Okay. Yep.
Awesome. Thanks, team. An alternative to the CAPS phone call. So this is a little different since being virtual. This is a yeah, actually this is done. Come to think of it, at least from what I understand. I use CAPS when I go to CAPS. They have me fill out some kind of a or like a online checkbox thing. It's not so much a phone call, but nope, never mind. I do remember taking a phone call. That's right, because I had to explain kind of everything that's going on in life. That's right. Another Ben email. Just see, hey Ben, what else can we do?
I can totally add that in to the email with all the other things.
Perfect. Thank you, Hattie. Green bandana. Jacob, how are we on the bandanas? We just have to buy them, right?
We just have to make the graphics and buy them.
Okay. How hard will those things be? Is Aphrodite looped in on the graphics piece?
I emailed Gabby and Aphrodite about it, but I didn't receive a response.
All right. Could you follow up with them?
Yep.
And then just buying the bandanas is the next piece, right?
Yes.
And that's, I mean, is that just like an Amazon purchase, or is there?
Yeah, I'm wondering if we should just like start even like lower than like 1,000. So with like 500 and then just go from there.
Sounds good. We'll keep them in one of the bins in the office. It'll be labeled, Department of Health and Wellness, and
Start with UPUA members and then see if we get good feedback about it.
sounds good. Okay. Crisis hotlines on the back of student ID cards. So again, I think, Hattie, this is another email. Were you, oh wait, you said you were going to stop by the office. Did you happen to make it in?
I stopped by the office and I got a contact, so I will reach out to them on Monday.
Okay, beautiful.
Also, it looks like the future of ID cards are digital. Now, I have personal feelings about that, but if that's the case, then when we're talking about digital ID cards, we should talk about putting these resources with the ID cards.
Yeah, I think so. It's a huge capital investment to do digital ID cards. It'll happen someday. I don't think it'll happen anytime recent or soon. If they do move to that option, what they'll do is have both cards and digital. So I still want them on the cards while they're still in existence. But I don't, like, if they go totally digital, 10, 15 years, I don't know how we'd include the resources beyond just, I don't know, maybe linking them somewhere in the description of that card on your phone.
What about on Penn State Go?
Yeah, I was just about to say that too.
Mm-hmm. Penn State Go would work. Where is this? Penn State Go. And I know we have some contacts with Penn State Go. Is anybody familiar with them?
I know Chair Jordan has worked with them, so if you want to, I think if you want to loop anyone in, it's definitely going to be her, since she has been working with them, and I believe she was also at the launch of it last year before COVID happened.
Okay. I think I don't want to if that's not too much work on her, that's totally fine. I know I have a contact from PSU Votes back when we put it on there, but it's dug somewhere in the depths of my inbox. So if Sarah has it on hand, it would be great. I can even reach out to her later today. Thanks, Lexi. International student-specific CAP services. This talks about bilingual, multilingual counselors. I did bring this up with Ben back when we started, and basically he pointed us to the new, I forget the name of it's like an offshoring CAP service. Is anyone familiar with that?
Ginger.
That's it, Ginger, yeah. And he says that Ginger is a way to do that, but it's all over the phone. So it's not a cop-out, but it is a way to get people who don't use English as their first language. Somebody who does, or somebody who also does not, but it's not an in-person experience. Still, I mean, Ginger's new this year. So I'd say that it's kind of one of those things that just has to be continued advocated for, with more space and more money coming towards it as time goes on. Food and alcohol disorder. Hattie, I asked you to make a campaign about this, right, with the department?
Yeah, so we recently just rolled out an eating disorder campaign for, it was like National Eating Disorder Awareness Week, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And we're working on the alcohol disorder campaign, then that should roll out, I don't know, sometime next week or maybe the week after.
Wonderful. Thanks. I really appreciate your help on that. It's a real problem that I don't think people talk about enough and don't know how to talk about. Protecting students in dining halls. So basically this was to remove calorie counts from the various things offered in dining. I believe we definitely got some pushback from dining. I don't remember if that was when Nora was the exec director of sustainability or kind of where that was in our timeline, but I don't think they're willing to remove the calorie counts. This could just be something I pass on to the next president, unless anyone has any other ideas. Just say, hey, we cared about this.
Yeah,
It-
I agree with Grace.
It might be. There are some schools that don't use it. Where is it? Who cited it with? I'm not sure. I'm not sure where this was
Harvard
from.
removes calorie info, cites eating disorders, and then you have an exchange from North Carolina.
Hmm?
You're looking at it. The article you're looking for?
It's North Carolina that does it. Yeah, it is. Yep.
Harvard is the one that did it, and then North Carolina did a report on it.
Yeah, and I think Harvard could do it because it's a private institution. Okay. That would be important to look into the, laws of it actually happening too. Director of Wellness, I'd say we did this. Hattie, the Department of Health and Wellness is pretty extensive. I think in the future, I'd like to see some kind of I think I've mentioned this before, a Department of Internal Development, somebody just focused on the members, their health and wellness, as well as, things like bonding, even like professional development. But at the same time, like I don't want to step on toes with health and wellness, and our terms are almost up, so I'm not going to create that. But there's definitely some room to grow on facing on the internal nature of it as well, because that's what the role was last year, just focused on internal stuff. I think they played Battleship once, if you've ever played that on a pool of water. Racial diversity, equity, and inclusion. Mandatory cultural and competency training, done. They're working on it right now. This is not our idea. People have been calling for this for years. Advocate for the creation of retention officers. I believe President Barron literally also just announced that too. Am I wrong? I'll check on that, but I don't think I am. World in Conversation facilitated dialogues into freshman seminars. Some of these initiatives, I think, carry the weight of the UPUA's history. We really have no control over some of these things. Freshman seminars, kind of. I mean, if we were to say something to Faculty Senate, but at the end of the day, we don't determine freshman seminars, nor if World in Conversation wants to be a part of freshman seminars. But just send this to Patty and see if there's anything that we can do in our last week here. Otherwise, another pass on. Jacob, is that okay?
Yeah.
What's next?
Wait, on this point, Zach, actually, I was going to say it would be helpful to consult with Sam Richards about this. So him and his wife, and to see like what their plans are too, because I'm sure they could help put some impetus behind this too.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Advocate for the.
Quick question: who's Sam Richards again?
So Sam Richards teaches the Soch classes mainly, and then his wife also does too. I think his wife is actually the director of World in Conversation, at least at Penn State, and then they do a few global things with it as well. So because they're the people that oversee the program, having their backing could mean that we can push this way forward.
Yeah, it's interesting and important to note though that Sam also had some allegations raised this year regarding comments that he makes as a professor, in which you don't end up creating a more inclusive environment. And I think that's why World in Conversation is kind of, yeah, thank you, Lexi. I think we'll tread carefully, and I'm not necessarily too upset that, not much was able to happen. Advocate for the success of staff and faculty of color.
That's a continuing mission rolling. How do you feel you did with it?
Very well. We've been pushing for these things from the very beginning.
Also to say, I think just like with the amount of search committees that have happened this year, I think let's just, I don't know. For me, I was really happy to see that we have a UHS director who is Black, just because I feel like in terms of inequities in the healthcare system, that is super symbolic in its own way. And it's obviously like not like, oh, we did so great, only one position, but it is a continuous work. So that was something I was really happy to see that come about this year.
Oh yeah, it sure was. Great reports down here. If you haven't read them, The Black and White Behind the Blue and White and More Rivers to Cross, please check them out. The commitment to combating racial bias. We covered it, but it's in this plan. Increase awareness of the Native American community on campus. Lexi's work with IPSA and
also Najee like spearheadness of this past year too. So it's been such a great effort on UPUA's end. So thank you, Najee.
Certainly, yeah. Najee, your committee's really made a lot of this stuff happen, and it wouldn't have been possible without you. Thank you. Terrific. Lexi, do you know if the other tours have also implemented the land acknowledgements?
So I know that with our tour director and line ambassadors, it's in our source book for the new members, and that was like a start. I know if we wanted to get to the other tour groups, like Lion Scouts and SMART works way more directly with admissions than line ambassadors. So if we want to implement it into admissions, it's more of like a formal process. So something that I plan to do, and Najee is in line ambassadors as well, is kind of pushing this now to admissions. And I think once the land acknowledgement is official across the university, that will be a lot more easier to implement. I think the plan, and I know talking to Tim, was to at least make it so that each tour director has to say a statement of acknowledgement in the beginning of their tours. So that's something that I'm hoping to transition to. Our tour director currently, she's planning to stay in the organization, and Najee is also going to be in line ambassador. So I think that's a continuous push that's like further across the university.
Good. Thank you, Lexi. And thank you, Najee. Continuing support for international students, continuous push. Hair discrimination. This Jonathan Sutherland was a student, is a student who last year had comments made about him, specifically his hair, from an angry alum and a racist alum. And so we suggested putting forward this bill. Status of pretty much all of our legislation. I talked with Sam, who's a legislative staffer, I believe, for Gov Affairs, about putting something forward, just adopting all of these kinds of resolutions. And I believe that's what he's trying to do with the Gov Affairs Committee by Wednesday. So this is done in that essence. Wally Triplett, Najee, you are tackling this with full steam ahead. So I'm very confident that this is okay, but it won't be something that we'll see done in our times, Lexi. Glad we could get the ball rolling. International students, job opportunities. It's been, I think, really hard to do many kind of job resource fairs, but any ideas here?
I got an email about the International Students Commission that I was sitting on last year is trying to restart. So I got to find someone to take my seat on that, and they'll discuss pretty much all of these issues.
Okay, perfect. Can you, one, get back to them maybe with, I don't know, do you have to give a name?
I was going to. They didn't ask for one, but I was going to.
Okay. And in there, just be sure to recommit that, you know, the UPUA is committed to furthering these things too, building those relationships with, you said it's a commission?
Yes.
That commission, good. International student specific CAP services, as addressed before. Well, more scholarship opportunities for international students. To be honest with you, I think this is something that, unless anybody has any thoughts on, Aphrodite and I were going to talk about, but I know that she couldn't make it today. So we can always come back to it. Mentorship opportunities, Penn State PALS. Again, this is something that Lexi and I had created last year, and it's still going really well. It's expanded this year to a degree, and then all we had talked about was making it an opt-out program. Another Aphrodite question. I'm sorry, Lexi, Aphrodite, and I created last year, not Lexi and I alone. Expanding World Cultural Week programming. Is anyone doing World Cultural Week this year? Are committees doing that?
I do not believe so, but I also can't really blame them since it's very, very in-person aspect. So
Yeah,
I just hope it doesn't die with the 15th Assembly.
I hope not. Najee, this might be something to include in transition documents for when we have in-person things, because Lexi's right. I mean, almost all of it's in person.
Absolutely.
Would just be something to consider for the 16th or 17th assemblies. Jacob, you had something on this?
Yeah, we're almost done. I think we're almost done. I think we're talking with Stephen and Global Programs about, you know how we can translate the UPUA website into multiple languages?
Yep.
Doing that kind of thing. I gotta, yeah.
Solid. It's a pretty handy tool. Sustainability, Ecosia. Little different than making it the default search engine. I don't think they wanted to do that, but we're encouraging that students use it. Kelly, where are we on the Creamery?
Oh man, that's such a tough topic for me. It just, we're talking about maybe trying to implement the new Green to Go program within the Creamery and allowing on-campus students to be able to use it there to implement the infrastructure that's already going to be there, because the Creamery does not want to make any unilateral changes for anything that's going to cost them more money, even if it might cost them less down the line. But it's just very, very difficult. It's definitely something that I want to keep pushing, but it's just going to have to come from the university. So we're trying to do small things until we can finally go to the university and say, this is what we think we should do. So it's a long process, but still working.
Okay. I really appreciate all the work that you've put into it so far. Even just, planning for that. I think we've talked about the need for a reusable dishwasher or things like that. That's really helpful information for them to have, them as in Creamery and future administrations as well. So, something in end of year reports, just outlining kind of where we are and how we can continue would be really helpful. Climate literacy. Kelly, were you also talking with Patty about this? Or is this, I think we talked about later on, right?
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit later on. We talked about maybe trying to work with climate crossover and trying to implement some sustainability related curriculum, but we're just not sure where yet. That's definitely something that we're still continuing to work on. I also want to work with academic affairs to maybe pass something once we figure out and have more meetings about what would be the best course of action to get the best sustainability education to students without them lamenting it while they're trying to learn it.
Sounds good. Solo cup recycling program. There's a group called TerraCycle that will recycle solo cups. They're not recyclable here in State College. That's the problem. TerraCycle will collect them and then they'll recycle them for you. We weren't able to do it this year. IFC's relationship with the UPUA was it was not harmed, but probably a little strained from the whole community group seat discussion this past fall, and we just didn't really have the time to do it. So I think this is also something that we'll just continue. And when I say continue, I mean, I'll include in transition documents. Things I wish we could have gotten to and that the UPUA I would recommend take up in the future. Recycling bin pilot program, really simple stuff. They got rid of recycling bins, but at the same time, even something as simple as having 2 trash bins in your room can help students differentiate. See, Najee, can help differentiate between recycling and trash. So we just talked about buying them for students. I'm just going to reach out to Amanda, who's the president there, and figure out where we are and if that would be even helpful at this point in time. We can use some discretionary money if so. Ann Lai's been crushing waste management. Kelly, do you think you could send something to Anne and ask kind of for specific, in specific, asking about creating some kind of a, like an ask a report to the administration in addition to students?
Yeah, definitely. I can maybe like send her over just like this whole statement too, just so we can read and see where it's coming from too.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be helpful. And I think that, you know, with the students signing on to that commitment, I think it definitely carries a little bit more weight than just Lexi and I saying that, you know, we believe these things. Green to Go program. I think, yeah, this is just encouraging people to use the Green to Go program. So Kelly, I mean, maybe we could even just put that on our social media.
Yeah, I just like Green to Go is not being used right now, but they're implementing a new, like they're revamping Green to Go for over the summer and then into the fall. So I've been working with the directors of waste management and sustainable materials and products to try and make sure that we can like work on this into the fall to make sure that students know about the new method and it doesn't turn any people away.
Sounds good.
We can, yeah.
Okay. And legislation that champions environmental sustainability. Again, it's all on the legislative docket. And then other things that we had talked about continuing supporting. Food justice, Vancy has been, this is really just our commitment to furthering it. But Vancy has been working on some of these things. Common lunch hour really saw no progress. We did try to get some things off the ground, but it's just such a long-term project that if next year doesn't take it up, it just won't ever happen. Same with the year after that and probably the year after that. Because you have to plan these years out, you know, 3 years, 4 years in advance. So we'll pass on. Bicycle-friendly campus. Ironically, these things are all happening. The fee board just voted to support a bicycle master plan that includes pretty much all of these things. Coverage for outdoor bike racks could be something that the facilities committee even takes up, just calling for more bike racks. I don't think the facilities committee often does advocacy, you know, calling for things to change on campus, but it very easily could. So maybe this could even be something that Sarah takes up with her committee in the last year. See you, Lewis. We'll try to wrap up here soon. Pretty much all of these things, like I just said, are already done. Civic engagement, institutionalized voter registration. This is something that with course registration coming up, we can do. I think I sent an email about it a while ago, but I'm not sure what the current progress is. Grace, do you know if you or, do you know the current situation by chance?
Sorry, can you repeat like what you're asking? Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. So it basically would put the option to register to vote in everyone's course registration. You know, you go through that little path, you have to click next on so many different pages. At other schools, like Northwestern and Stanford, they've put essentially like a place to register to vote, and you have to either click that yes, you are registered, or I'm not registering and I recognize that the university is offering this opportunity. So it's like pretty much.
Yeah, you mean like the holds thing in the line path or whatever?
Well, not a hold because it's they're not requiring you to register to vote, but they want to make it very obvious that they want you to register to vote. But you can still click no if you can't, or if you don't want to. It would just be in the course registration section.
Yeah, I don't know where. I don't think that's I don't think that's being done right now. I contacted Tim back in like February and we like talked,
Mhm.
and he didn't really bring up anything that he was planning on doing. So, but I could bring it up to him.
All right. It might even, let's send this to Nick Jones. I know it sounds crazy, but we'll just send this section here in an email to Nick Jones and say, hey, basically we'll rework it so it's this, but let's catch up on that. I'm not too worried about it happening. It could even happen this year. Election day, a university holiday. We called for it. We'll see if it happens in legislation. Elected officials on campus. We've been bringing some to Gov Affairs, but it's been hard to, again, make it kind of open. In the future, I think that this is something the department could tackle alongside Gov Affairs, if not just by itself. Just bring people in, have them talk to students. And then that's something that reps don't have to worry about. UPUA advocacy days. Jacob, weren't you touching on that? Is that happening or no?
I was working on it with Caitlin, but I haven't heard from her.
Okay, could you follow up with her just to see kind of where we are and if there's maybe something we could even set up next year, for next year, I should say. There's one thing the next administration and assembly don't have to worry about, but which will be a benefit to the students. Let's do it. Borough ABCs. I applied to the Borough ABCs and they didn't accept me. They didn't accept Dan. They didn't accept any other student that I know of. So it's hard to suggest that people join these ABCs and then they don't accept them. Don't really have any other ideas here. They're like committees. You can think of these things as like committees. Just continue pushing up the opportunities, I guess. PSU votes. We did some PSU votes this year. I don't think it was as big as we wanted it to be. The department was really helpful with making some graphics, and I know that Gov Affairs helped put together some, I think they had like a call line and things like that, which was helpful. Mail-in ballot drop-off boxes already happening. Just push news out there to students. We did this, a little different, but we did it. Service members. We pushed for this. We passed it at the end of the last year. We did this actually while campaigning. Veterans Day Parade. Jacob, I mean, we just pass on to the Borough Council and say, hey, we'd like to see this.
Yeah.
When we can in person.
Yeah.
Possible, won't happen when we're done.
Yeah, we can't do something our term for a holiday that's in November.
I mean, we couldn't do anything our turn for a holiday that was in November this year too. Hopefully next year with in-person stuff, it'll happen. This is the most frustrating initiative I think I've ever worked on. They keep saying that they want to do it and then they aren't doing anything about it. So don't know really what to do. Just gonna follow up with them and see what happens. Nick Jones had said that he was on board with that. Student safety and well-being, expand support for trans students. One of the things that we ran on was the name change vouchers that happened this year. Clothing transit, I believe. Hattie, you said Muggs is going to work on some kind of a campaign here too. Again, just letting people know.
Yeah, I know that he has a lot of knowledge about what services are in the, or I guess what, not services, resources are in the community. And he would definitely be the go-to person for something like this.
Solid. And then we also touched on this being sent to you and Adeline. Could be as simple as putting it in a resolution and calling for these things on Wednesday. We've tried not backdoor, but we've tried communications with them and they just don't want to reciprocate with us. Lighting downtown, another resolution even could just be as simple as copying all of this into the nature of the situation and then calling for increased lighting during these areas or at these areas. Jacob, what do you think?
This is increasing the lighting.
Yeah.
I think that the borough council has made it very clear how they feel about it.
Yeah, the borough council might change. Do you think a UPUA resolution would be of help to the incoming borough council to know that we still care about it?
Yeah, you should once that election is over, you should let them know.
Okay.
For this one, I think you could expand it in places like Hub Lawn. I don't know that you can expand it in Greek Road because it's too far from university.
We talked about some kind of a university and camp or borough partnership, actually, about pushing PSU Wi-Fi down off campus too. I don't know if I mean, they sounded interested, but that was, of course, it's the extent of any of their conversations. They'd want to.
I know that Provost Jones gave us the contact of like their chief IT officer, but I don't know if anything really came about with that because I feel like the reason has always been, well, COVID, so we can't. So, yeah.
Yeah. Lexi, do you still have that contact by chance?
That's what I was thinking. I can look through my emails to see what, because I remember Provost Jones or at least one of his like secretaries sending it over to us. So let me like dive into that and see if I can find it.
Oh my God. And you know who just came to my mind, Lexi, who works on tech stuff and who works for the borough?
Who?
Our fellow student body president of the World Campus, Sean Walsh.
Oh, you're right.
Let's we'll touch base with World Campus and see if maybe there's some kind of collaboration there too. Okay, university policy changes. Rideshare safety. We've been pushing for Sammy's Law from our day in Gov Affairs. Or our days in the 14th Assembly, I should say. I don't know if anything will really change here, but we've been pushing for it. Electric scooters, we also called for it. Just kind of continuing these things now. Soft edge campaign for each of these things would really be of help. You know, now that we have soft edge. Raise the campus minimum wage, Jacob?
No idea. I think it's probably something to move to the next administration.
Could be. Could a resolution work? I mean, theoretically, just imagine we could write as many resolutions as possible. Could we write something in very brief and short for this Wednesday or no?
We could pass it on Wednesday.
Yeah, because it's something that we're calling for. It's not like a change that we can make internally.
Literally just take this language and put it in a resolution.
100%, yeah. Student-friendly maternity leave policy, paternity leave policy. Pass it on to academic affairs.
Yeah, if you guys haven't talked about it, then
Not happening this, yeah. I think we touched on it, but I think Patty said it's not possible. Or at least it won't be possible this year. Earlier syllabi access. Again, these are both academic affairs things. This is something that I know the team in academic affairs worked on. I don't think we'll change anything this year. We'll continue. I think this is pretty much on everybody's. All UPUA presidents and their vice presidents have to have this on their platform. Just seems like it's always there, but nothing seems to change. University-wide scholarship database.
we created a scholarship database, Zach. Can we just move it over to the UPUA website?
Please send me the link. I'll put it up today.
You have the link. You helped create it.
Oh, no. But that was for a specific individual.
Yeah, but why can't we take the scholarships that are on there and turn it into a database?
We can do that and then just keep adding them to it.
Yeah.
student handbook, wider range of resources. Hattie, you and I talked about this. S-books didn't happen this year because they couldn't be distributed. They're also kind of a waste of time. Dan says that they more than I think it's more than 25% of them left over are all thrown away. So it's like not really environmentally sustainable either. So in the future, if they do this, I'd recommend something virtual, and including resources in there would just be common sense. Students teaching students. I'm talking with Michael Miller about this now. We might be able to have something through by next Wednesday, if anything, but continuing on working with them would be helpful. I don't believe Josie Krieger, I believe she removed herself from the program.
When did that happen?
I think recently. I'm not positive, but Michael's in my contact right now. Professional attire closet pop-ups. Social distancing,
Those
as
haven't happened because of COVID, so.
continue it on, yep. And internal, centralize the UPUA office. We only get so many times to request more office space, and this year just so happened to be one of those years, so I did. Haven't heard back from the hub. We'll see what happens. But we've reorganized the office quite a lot, and hopefully we'll get some additional space for students to interact with their student government. We used to have a space downtown. We stopped. Financial transparency. Tony, you know a thing or two about that.
Yeah, we love financial transparency. Sorry, it's super loud where I am.
You're good. You're so good. The budget is up on the website, and that is that. This response, look at that. We did actually delegate something to the departments. I didn't realize we did that. I mean, you can do these things pretty early on. We just had a bad budget up there. We had the original one up there pretty early on, but Tony and her deputy director have been able to revamp our current one. It looks so nice. I announced this yesterday, actually, at our town hall. We'll be creating something similar, not exactly mini publics, in which you get people in the room and basically get the opinion of the student body through that. Thanks, Tony. Some kind of a survey, though, that isn't in the form of a referendum, but helps guide the UPUA's understanding of how the student body feels on various things, will be sent out student body wide via a survey called What's Up, with a capital UP. The idea is just, again, kind of gauging the student opinion on things and allowing them to partake in the direction setting of their student government. CAS 100 policy proposal. Jacob, we have an email to the CAS department waiting to figure out some next steps there. Executive branch, I would say it's pretty revamped. I don't know about you guys, but pretty revamped. Sora, increasing access to Sora. How, and Lewis popped off, right?
Yeah, he had another meeting, he said.
Okay, no worries. I'll chat
But
with
Zach,
him.
I know mutually between you, me, and Lewis, we were talking about potentially having the UPUA incorporate Sora inside of it. So do you think that's progress towards that policy goal?
Kind of. I think I know what you mean. Like giving all UPUA members a chance to be a part of the Sora program.
Mm-hmm. And then also, like, I know we were talking about how because Sora is off on its own, it's not as known. It's not known as widely. So if it's part of the UPUA, that thereby enhanced its visibility.
Yeah. I think what's even worse is that it is part of the UPUA, but it doesn't it's not advertised like it is. And so certainly in how we talk about it and get students that resources or those resources, that resource, making it a piece of your student government is, like you said, pretty important.
Hey y'all, I do have to head out, but I am available through text if there's anything that I can give in terms of input or resources with the little last pages of the platform. But thanks for having me, and I love seeing all of you today.
Thanks, Lexi. Lexi, before you hop off, I'll just say the very last thing that we need from you, if you
Mhm.
have time today, is just to send over the links to the recordings from our meetings, and then
Is
we
it-
have it done.
Okay, is it okay if I send that over tomorrow or
Mm-hmm.
no? Just because I don't have a lot, like, that's, I do want to like succinct it so it's at least like you have the dates and links, but like I don't know if I can do that today. Definitely tomorrow though.
Yeah, Nikhil, is that all right with you?
I'm sorry.
Can Lexi send over the links to the recordings tomorrow?
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about that earlier today.
Oh,
All right,
perfect.
sounds good.
Yeah, take your
Oh.
time.
All right, bye guys.
Bye, Lexi. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
See you, Lexi.
The very last thing really here, because the other bit about press conferences is done, is the legislative docket. This is what I believe Sam and a few representatives, well, Sam, and then with the help of representatives, will introduce on Wednesday, just supporting these things. We already supported a lot of them, so I'm not worried about that. I think this is what Lewis put through earlier that I was talking about. We were talking about doing one for a resolution for every bill here, but at this point it's easier just to do them all in one. And then the UPUA will officially support all of these things. They're all pretty good things. And then we just need a place to hold it. And I don't know why it's taken, I don't know like what exactly the holdup is. I think it's maybe a bit of jurisdiction confusion. I don't think it's really I could be wrong, but I don't think it's our job to make the docket. I thought it was the Gov Affairs team that was supposed to do it, and then they just never did. This might be even a record / outreach / Gov Affairs thing. Jacob, how do we do this now? Just create a list of all these things.
Put it all in one piece of legislation, pass it.
No, I'm sorry. When we pass it, though, we've already, for example, passed the Sammy's Law. We've already passed Sammy's Law. So the docket that we created, as I think it was the first policy, should have created a list of all of the resolutions that the UPUA has ever supported or opposed. And I don't think that it exists. That's what the resolution did, or the policy did, but it never happened. We just have to make it. Somebody just has to make the sheet, you know?
Yeah. Sounds right.
So let's just hold ourselves to it and get it done this week. Put it up on the website, and then any other bills that we support in the future can be added or amended from that list. Okay, and then I think we are done. Everything else here are initiatives that Lexi and I talked about wanting to continue, but we didn't really, some of them we actually did as representatives, but other pieces like were just not really things that we had the opportunity to tackle. And then there was a little note from Nora. And that's it. That's everything that we ran on. And I think at the very least, there's a plan for everything in the next week or two. That was a lot. Thanks for bearing with us, guys.
Yeah, of course.
I don't want to hold you guys up too much longer. Are there any questions, discussion, announcements, anything like that that anyone wants to share with everyone?
What else did we have on the agenda?
Everything else, I had future goals listed out. But I think that might even be more fit for next week. That would be, that would be something for next week.
From my count, we got about 34 of them done so far, and a bunch of them are half done.
Yeah, most of them are things that we've kind of been doing all along.
Do we need to plan for tomorrow's walk?
Kelly, have you heard who's able to drive?
Yeah, that's what I was just about to ask about. I'm just trying to get like official counts. So I know that Nikhil, you said that you have a car, right? Because you're the only person that liked that message. And then I also have a car. Does anyone else here have one or is like interested in going at all? I don't want to like force you. But, and also if you're just interested in going, I'm trying to get like those numbers together as well. I think I'm gonna put one more like something in the chat as well, just be like this message if you want to come. I'm just trying to work out logistics. So I'm working with so many different groups of people, but I think that we're gonna have enough cars too. But I think only like one person from my department is able to go, which is unfortunate. But
Do you want to just sort of make a group chat later for the people who are going? How many people are going? Like,
yeah, I was gonna put everyone together in a group me. There's just one person that loves the message that I didn't have. Like I have their number, but I don't know who they are. But I can figure that out.
okay. Alrighty, just let me know. I have a third row if you really need it. It'll be like a little cramped, yes, but it's not that much of a drive. So yeah.
In worst case scenario, I think there's a bus that'll take you out there too. It drops you off down the street, but then, you know, a little walk up won't be too bad.
And we can leave people at the trailhead and shuttle them up if need be.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Real quick from the bus stop.
Thanks for offering to drive, Nikhil. That means a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm working on buying a car now, actually, so I might have to reach out to you for some advice.
Yeah, sure.
I'm gonna head out. Zach, everyone, good to see you all. Be good.
Yeah. Thanks, Jacob. That's everything I had, folks. If anyone has anything
Zach,
else.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Do you have the exec report? Did you post that? I don't see it in the team.
Yes, I did not.
Okay.
So I'll send that now. And then if you want to add your reports, that would be very helpful. And I'll send a reminder tomorrow as well.
Okay, great. Thanks, Zach.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
Zach, I had a question about just meeting with you to go over. So should I refill out the Calendly? Would that work better?
No, let's see here. Let's officially end this meeting.